but he will keep. And he's going to start things up with an untapped Steam Fence. Down to 18 he goes. He'll pass the turn back over to Ross. Ross with the breeding pool then on battlefield tapped as game number 3 of round 5 underway between Cooney and Ross. Sulfur falls, pass the turn back over to the boss. I think a Gataxian Probe may have been the draw here for Tom. Get an idea of what he's playing against if you'd like. And it appears that he's considering it. Hasn't made that move just yet.
This is one of the matchups where information has a huge premium for Ross, as these flash decks can bring all sorts of tricks to the table.
And that's exactly what Cooney's doing. He's got Electrolyze, a Lightning Bolt, a Leak, a Dispel, and a Ghost Quarter. That's a really good mulligan.
No threat card in the hand, but removal for days.
Yeah, that's about the only thing he's missing. He's even got Ghost Quarter for Inkmoth. I'd be curious to see how Tom kind of works his way through this. That's a huge wall of permission.
Yeah, there's not a lot to be gained by casting creatures right now, so Tom has drawn a Serum Visions, and I think he's just going to do things like this for a little while, try to set up a hand.
And he'll start by drawing a card. Now he'll scry 2. Inkmoth Nexus in that scry.
The Nexus feels important to me at this stage of things for Tom, as with so much instant speed removal in hand, he's just got to figure out some way to dead Cooney's turns, but still get a threat card.
Yeah.
And Nexus, he can just kind of sit back for a while, not do anything with it. He has a variety of ways to protect it if Cooney makes a move with Ghost Quarter. And Cooney also values his mana, so he's probably not going to Ghost Quarter straight away. And you can try to set up a hand that can play through all the removal that Cooney just showed you.
Pendelhaven was land number 2 for the boss. For Cooney, his turn was pretty simple. Just draw, play Ghost Quarter, pass the turn back. We know he's got Electrolyze, Dispel, Lightning Bolt, and Mana Leak. 1 mystery card over there for him. Inkmoth Nexus here for the boss. He'll just pass the turn back. Looks like Cooney picked up a copy of Celestial Colony. So that'll be the land here for him. All colors online, as Ross will draw. Another copy of Gataxian Probe. There's a Verdant Catacombs.
And I think Ross here not really looking to make a move with Gataxian Probe necessarily. I think he's just sort of happy to hang back here for a little while.
I guess the question you have to ask is, who does this kind of game favor?
Well, I know the upfront game right now of these players just banging their resources against each other really favors Cooney. He's got a million removal spells. So Ross has just got to wait for a better hand to play Magic with. If he makes a move right now, he's going to die. The upshot of waiting here, you may be able to overload Cooney's removal spells by not allowing him to efficiently spread them out. If you allow Cooney to use a mana here, a mana here, a mana here, he's going to be able to cast all the spells in his hand efficiently. You do nothing, well, now he's just sitting here. On top of that, Cooney's missing land drops, so you might be able to really bottleneck him.
Breeding Pool going to be searched up here by the boss.
I don't know if this game necessarily favors Tom, but I know he can't just go, here's a Glistener Elf, all right, I'll use Electrolyze on it, you do something or you don't, and now you're allowing Cooney to use his cards efficiently. Tom's just got to wait for a little while.
Yeah, probably not a great avenue to go down to try to win the game.
And with Nexus in play, it really jams up Cooney's ability to do things proactively, because Tom might be able to do something to you.
Here's Probe again. Tom's got a pretty good idea of what's going on over there. There's also been a Lightning Helix and a Restoration Angel added to the hand.
Restoration Angel is a big card here for Cooney because he needs to get some pressure into play. And once he gets Restoration in play, now his removal becomes very powerful because Tom no longer has all the time in the world to sculpt the perfect hand.
Yeah, he's got to start actually playing into the removal, because if not, he'll just get attacked to death.
Yep. And burned out.
Yep.
I mean, all the removal that Cooney's flashing there can just go at Tom's head just as easily as it can go at his creatures.
Well, here is a Spell Skype. And that's not a bad place to start.
It's really good against a bunch of bolts.
Again, the big trick here is just how does Tom sequence everything, and in return, how does Cooney sequence everything? A misstep from either player could be game over.
For sure, and that's why these Cataxian Pros have been so helpful for Tom, because if he was just spending these early turns trying to curve out with his creatures, he's done.
Glistener Elf now. And this, I mean, something as simple as Mana Leak could come into play here.
But that's another turn where Cooney's not casting Restoration Angel. The Electrolyze in Cooney's hand does very little right now because Tom has a Pendelhaven available to save Glistener Elf from that. The bolts don't work because Tom can move it over to the Spell Guide unless Cooney's willing to spend 2 bolts on it.
Looks like Cooney does have a question for a judge, so we'll take a moment here. Tough game to figure out exactly how you want to play it on both sides.
I really like how Tom is managing this right now, where he sees a hand that forces him to act because of the Restoration Angel. He can no longer sit and wait for the perfect hand. He resolves Spellskite in a fashion where Mana Leak doesn't do anything. He leads off with Glistener Elf. If Cooney wants to use Mana Leak there, that's fine. You're not casting Restoration Angel. Now the removal spells are very hard to use. If he wants to use 2 bolts taking down a Spellskite, now Tom can really start leveraging his infect threats.
Yep.
If Cooney wants to turn this into a damage race by casting Restoration Angel, Tom probably has the tools to make this a damage race as well. So, working with the information that Tom got from the Cataxian probes, this is the best way to jam Cooney up.
So we're going to see if Glistener Elf actually resolves here or not. I think Cooney's still thinking about it. And now, okay, it's clearly in because Tom is sacrificing Misty Rainforest. So this will resolve, go a little bit lower. See what land Tom wants to search up. He's going to go with a basic forest. And Cooney with a lot of great options in hand. Electrolyze, Dispel, Lightning Bolt, Mana Leak, Restoration Angel, Lightning Helix. Here's another Glistener Elf. See if Cooney maybe wants to leak this one. See, Tom has just tapped out to just this Pendelhaven. Cooney very unsure of himself at this point, understandably so. Here's Restoration Angel. He wants to get a clock on the table.
At this point, he might feel like it's just too hard for him to manage the game via his burn spells because of Spellskite, Pendelhaven, all the workarounds, and he might just want to be getting aggressive in this position.
Snapcaster Mage was the draw. Yeah, the thing here, Cooney has a lot of great cards in his hand, but he's got to start casting some of them.
And that's a credit to the way that Tom's played this game. Like I said earlier, if Tom had just curved out putting his stuff into play, Cooney would have chewed him up.
Yep.
He would have easily been able to do all this. Now Cooney has had a bunch of dead turns, the same way that Ross has had a bunch of dead turns, setting up his hand. And, you know, he's just picked up Snapcaster Mage. There's nothing to do with Snapcaster Mage right now. If Tom was running his resources into Cooney's earlier on, Snapcaster Mage would be a great draw. As it stands, it's just another slow card that's going to be hard for Cooney to leverage.
18-14 in favor of Cooney right now. Restoration Angel is going to come in. Let's make it 18-11. And just pass the turn back. Almost daring Tom to do his worst. Twisted Image the draw. Curious if that plays a role in things. You have to imagine that's in Tom's deck after sideboard because of a card like Spellskite.
Twisted Image just comes in a bunch.
Yeah.
Because Spellskite is very, very bad for Invent to play against, and anyone can have it.
And it's pretty nice that it is just a cantrip.
Yeah, the floor on the card is still pretty high. It's easy to cycle. There's random weird spots where it comes up, but it is mostly an anti-Spellskite measure.
There's a forest. Here come the Glistener Elves. And Cooney's hand stock loaded. It's just how does he want to use the resources? Tom is getting very aggressive. So he's going to activate Pendlehaven, make one into a 2/3, and now he's going to cast Twisted Image to make it into a 3/2. This will be an attack in total for 4.
Combo.
Yep. Something like that.
See? It's always going to do something.
Tom with a lot of cards in hand, too. He's got Apostle's Blessing, a Vines of the Vastwood, a lot of different things over there.
And another nice thing in this spot is Tom has a fair amount of blue mana to work with. So even though Cooney wants to turn this into a damage race, Tom can redirect some of these burn spells potentially to Spellskite while paying blue mana.
Mana Leak going to go after Twisted Image. I don't think Tom minds about that one bit.
And this is a function of Tom doing such a good job jamming up Cooney's resources earlier on in the game. Cooney just kind of has to cast things on his turn. He can no longer afford to just burn off turns not doing anything. And so he has to mana leak whatever Tom's going to let him mana leak here.
Spellskite being a real annoyance right now. If I'm Aaron, I might actually just have some interest in casting this Snapcaster Mage in a turn. Looks like he's going to go targeting something with Lightning Helix, but that's not going to get him very far. I mean, if Tom wants it to die, he'll let it, but I saw kind of the redirection coming there.
If Cooney's plan was to follow up with Lightning Helix here, I guess my preference, sorry, the Ghost Quarter's jamming him up. I was going to say I guess my preference would have been for him to use the Dispel here and then Bolt and Helix the Spellskite down, but he can't do that because of the Ghost Quarter.
Looks like Serum Visions was the draw.
But that was just a great turn for Tom. I mean, that was Cooney's best use of resources. It didn't amount to very much.
Restoration Angel going to come across again here. You can definitely see how Cooney's trying to go about winning the game. He's trying to make it about a damage race. He's got Bolt, he's got Electrolyze in hand. Ross going to fire up Inkmoth Nexus, looking like he wants to chump. Let's keep in mind here, too, Inkmoth Nexus gets the chump block 1 turn, and it also cuts some turns off the, adds turns to the clock because of the infect counter.
And I feel like Tom just seems much more confident in his actions right now than Cooney does.
I think Spellskite gives Tom a real safety net.
I'm saying more from the perspective that I feel like Tom has an idea of what his game plan is right now, and Cooney's just sort of responding turn to turn by what Tom is allowing him to do.
Sure. Noble Hierarch the draw here for Ross. Not a particularly good one in this situation.
Like the amount of hesitation there from Cooney when Tom went to activate the Nexus, I don't think Cooney was anticipating a block there.
Sure. Here is Inkmoth Nexus. Excuse me, here is Noble Hierarch. Now there's Misty Rainforest. Tom with 2 cards left in hand.
And it's a reasonable spot, I think, for Tom to run the chump block on the previous turn because there's a Ghost Quarter in play on the other side of the table. So you slow down the clock significantly, and you take a lot of this thing out of the Ghost Quarter because now there's not much to do with it.
Here are the attacks. Cooney again looking at multiple copies of Lightning Bolt, Electrolyze, Dispel. It looks like he's going to go up to 6 Infect now. So now Cooney, it looks like he's going to play something on the end step. 3 mana. Looks like it might be time for that Electrolyze.
Yeah, splitting on Noble Hierarch and the elf that did not get pumped seems okay.
I'm also fine with this split, which is Spellskite and Glistener Elf, because if you target Spellskite and Glistener Elf, there is no redirection available.
Yes.
Now, of course, it is the Glistener Elf that was not pumped by Pendlehaven.
Remember, Tom's still working with Apostle's Blessing and Vines in hand, so he can continue to protect the Spellskite. Cooney with Dispel in hand to fight back against one of those spells.
Electrolyze is going to resolve. Cooney will get to draw a card. One Glistener Elf down here for Aaron. Vendilion Click the draw.
Vendilion Click is a great draw here for Cooney, as trying to kill this stuff is fraught with peril because of the Spell Skite. But now with Tom just down to Glistener Elf, blocking is a route.
Spell Skite going to be targeted by Lightning Bolt. Remember, it's got a damage on it from Electrolyze, so this would be a lethal way to get it off the table. Tom with the Vines and the Apostle Blessing, as you did mention, so he can use either one of these to save the Spell Skite, though it's unclear if he has any interest in doing that at all. He might value that Glistener Elf, for example, a lot higher than the Spell Skite and would rather have protection for those cards.
I think that a motivation here for, it looks like Tom's erring on the side of letting this go. This is an opportunity for him to resolve one of his instants while Cooney does not have the ability to cast a spell. But if Tom's planning on, kind of suckering Cooney into countering something non-essential so the Vines resolves for lethal or some other play, then I guess Tom's just going to let it go.
The one thing here is it's turn number 1 of extra turns is that Tom knows Cooney's hand, but not vice versa.
Yeah. There's been some mystery draw steps, but Ross is basically working, he's working with very solid information.
So Cooney with a 2/3 Restoration Angel back on defense at this point, as we're in his first main phase, the first turn of extra turns. 4 lands out there, Steam Vents, a Sulphur Falls, a Celestial Colonnade, and a Ghost Quarter. A lot of cards in hand for him. He's got that Dispel still, a Lightning Bolt, a Serum Visions, a Vendilion Click, a Snapcaster Mage. For Ross, his board much more simple with Glistener Elf, Noble Hierarch, a bunch of lands, Pendlehaven among them, an Apostle's Blessing, and a Vines of Vastwood. Both of these players 4-0 here in Cincinnati. Here's a Geist of Saint Traft. There is the ability for Tom to win this turn, depending on what the draw step is.
Remember, he's still got to beat Dispel.
Yep. Verdant Catacombs, the draw here for Ross. Certainly not what he was looking for.
So if Cooney's hanging back with everything, to me it indicates he's willing to go through some pains here to try to get the Glistener off the table. I guess his potential route here is simply block with Restoration Angel and try to race with the Burn Spells plus Geist. If he goes for a double block here, though, I think Tom may Apostle's Blessing. It looks like Cooney is just trying to race.
If you've got a Pendlehaven activation and then a Noble Hierarch Exalted, so that Glistener Elf is going to be a 3-power creature. So there goes the Angel. Now Tom will pass the turn back. We might see a Bolt on the end step here. Yeah, because I think we're on that burnout plan.
Yeah, if he hung back last turn and didn't try to get that elf off the table, he is just trying to burn out with Geist plus his leftovers.
Cooney will draw a copy of Lightning Helix. That's turn number 3 of extra turns. Geist looks like it wants to come into the red zone. And it does. An Angel will be joining it.
So now, for example, Cooney can go ahead, play Vendilion Click in the draw step with Dispel backup. That's probably enough to not die from Ross's attack, no matter what his hand looks like, and then you can burn him out.
Ross down to 4. Cooney will pass the turn back. It's turn number 4 of extra turns. Ross is the last chance to win. He will start with a Serum Visions. That'll resolve. Mystery card drawn.
And it looks like Cooney's trying to sit back on Removal Spell plus Dispel, which to me is worse than Vendilion Click plus Dispel. He's probably he doesn't have that many ways to punch through a blocker if all you're looking to do is chump block, but he has a lot of ways to play over the top of a bunch of damage-based removal spells.
This could get ugly depending on how he plays it. Ross is in the red zone right now. I mean, this is the crucial turn. Here's Snapcaster Mage. Looks like it's going to target Lightning Bolt.
This is another route to get to a lot of the same place. I like this play fine from
I
Cooney,
do
where
too.
he's basically, now he's got 3 pieces of interaction. He's got Snapcaster to block, he's got Lightning Bolt in case something goes wrong, and he has Dispel in case something goes really wrong.
Yep. The thing here, too, this was a great play here by Cooney, because in order for Tom to play Apostle's Blessing, he's got to take 2 and go down to 2. Lightning Bolt has flashback. So Pendelhaven is going to grow the Glistener Elf.
Really tight sequencing here from
Yeah,
Cooney.
this was a Very
well done.
He got his bearings finally.
Yeah.
And figured out what he needed to do to get the job done, because he
Very well
definitely had the tools to get the job done there, and he found a way to navigate through it. So Aaron Cooney is going to win this match over Tom Ross in extra turns, 2-1. Jeskai Flash will take care of Infect, and for Cooney, he gives the boss his first loss, and as a result, he moves on to 5-0.
Very, very nicely done there. And